Well, I'm Hannah, and this
I'm
is
Nemo.
Nemo, and we are married couple living in Central Texas, and we create moving mosaics from aluminum cans. And the way we got started was uh, 15, 20 years ago. We wanted to make some art without spending a lot of money and realized that beer cans and soda cans that we had just sitting around were a great material. And we didn't circle back around to actually making this art form as our living until
About 5 years or so.
no, I think it's been 10 years. It's been a while. In 2012. Yeah, so around 2012. Yeah, I can't believe it's been 10 years. We started making these moving mosaics, and the way that we kind of discovered that we could do this was that I had this idea to make a mosaic like representing an image, and I started punching the aluminum cans with a hole puncher, and I thought, yeah, these look like mosaic pieces, so let me try gluing them or nailing them down to a piece of wood. And so I got some nails that I just happened to have. Of course, this is how we are. It's always just, what do we have? Not let's go buy stuff. But anyway, I started hammering the nails through the discs onto a piece of wood. And the piece of wood I was using was pretty thin, and the nails I was using were pretty long, and they were poking through, and I was nailing the artwork to the desk. And I'm like, oh no, this is not right. Just because I don't want to go buy different wood and different nails, let me just do it without nailing down the nail all the way. And then that led to, oh, but hey, if these discs aren't pinched, if we punch another hole, then they'll be able to move. So that's kind of how the idea came about later. At first it was just cutting up cans and this is a material, but then it evolved into like what you see behind us, which is these discs that are freely hanging from the nail, and they move when there's a little bit of air motion in the room. Like you can kind of see
that the fan hits it every
yeah, like a little bit of movement. Those are hanging on the wall, and then those two pieces right there are just leaning up against it, so they're not really moving much right now. And we took this idea on the road. We lived in our camper van, and we went from state to state selling our art at art festivals. We did that for 8 years, and we got tired of it, and we quit. We didn't know what to do, and we got part-time jobs, and then the pandemic happened. So I think some people think that we quit because of the pandemic, but it wasn't really that. It was that we were just tired, exhausted from being on the road, right?
Yeah, something else happened before the pandemic.
Yeah. And now we sell our art exclusively online.
Okay, awesome. So what does your process look like when you're creating a piece of art? Like, what tool do you use to cut up cans?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to discuss how you do it?
Well, I don't know. Well, I mean, it starts with finding the cans, getting our hands on, as many cans with cool graphics as we can find. I mean, we drink a lot. So
yeah,
that helps, but we're always like constantly looking for people who like will empty out, 30 Coke cans in a week, or whatever they're addicted to.
And then don't forget to mention that where we live, there's no recycling program.
And there's very few people around too.
Yeah, so. It's a rural area.
Okay.
So
yeah, there's more cows than people.
A lot of our cans are coming from people that live in our community.
Who drink cool stuff.
They would end up in the garbage if they didn't know about us, I guess. Yeah. Because most people just throw everything away and it goes to a landfill. If you want to recycle, if you live in this region and you want to recycle, you have to drive quite far to get to a recycling center. And most people just don't.
Yeah.
So continue.
Then we, I mean, we pull a lot of cans out of the trash, and like when we're in town, if we see something in there. But yeah, that's, I mean, you know, cans aren't hard to find, right?
Yeah, so go on about cutting them and stuff, or
Yeah, so
cleaning
yeah,
them.
cleaning them's the hard part too, because you know they kind of get bad, and
They'll
then
have bees and ants in them.
or some,
Yeah.
or I don't know, Snickers wrappers and
Oh yeah, candy wrappers.
Yeah,
A lot of people have this habit of like
they spit their dip in it,
Yeah,
or
stuffing stuff in the cans, and then we
Oh,
find
yeah.
that later. It's like
yeah, and craft beer gets pretty nasty.
Mhm.
Energy drinks are nasty,
So you have to clean them.
so you got to clean them.
Yep.
Then we cut them. We use X-Acto knives.
I prefer an
and
X-Acto knife.
I use an X-Acto knife and a scissors.
We use those scissors.
I use these
Show
scissors,
the
just
scissors. Just
regular,
sharp
Oh,
scissors.
Cool.
Yeah.
regular, you know,
I
regular
think they're
scissors.
actually like pruning scissors.
Is that what they are? I don't know. I like the point.
It's a sharp
Yeah.
point.
How do
Yeah.
you like, are they all the same shape exactly? Or
The cans?
like
Or
The
the
punches.
circles? Like,
Mhm.
how do you make sure that they're the same size?
oh, yeah, that's later. But yeah,
Oh.
we just use punchers.
Oh,
I mean, they're hole
oh.
punchers. It's just
Yeah, it's a hole puncher. That is our. Do we have another one handy to show?
no, that's the one I'm using.
All
right
right.
now.
Well, this is the one he's using right now. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
Cool.
like
And
an industrial hole punch,
yeah.
but
and
you could
it-
use a craft punch too.
That's the punch.
Nice.
It's a blue one.
They're
you
small.
can,
Those
yeah.
are 1/2 inch.
Yeah. So I mean, it just punch.
Show up here so she can.
I guess you know it's
Okay.
so it just punches it and it leaves a hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you cut
know.
out like a big strip and then you like do.
Oh yeah, yeah. After we cut up the cans, we
Then we-
get them and we flatten them,
Oh,
and then we organize them by color. Yeah, they look like this. That's a 7-Up can.
oh. Okay. So you cut them
So
like
yeah, so we get the cans, we wash them, cut them up open, and we flatten them, and then I go and we organize them according to color or brand, or because like you know how Coke has a lot of different Cokes, like the
Yeah.
summer Coke and the Olympic
And then
Cokes
there's
and the
Diet Coke and Cherry Coke.
yeah. So there's a bin that's just dedicated to Coke, and here's the
Yeah.
original Coke, and then the Diet Coke, and then all the other
And then
ones.
I want to show you this one. This is actually what we started with. This is
Yeah.
a craft punch meant for like scrapbooking. It's meant for paper.
Which works great.
It works really, really great, and it's really affordable. But they don't really last forever, especially if
Yeah.
you're punching as many little discs as we are.
It's the springs, right? So like there's, I don't know if you can't even really see, but there's
Yeah,
a
oh, I
little
see
tiny
it.
spring in there. That
Yeah.
thing pops off.
Mhm.
The thing still punches, it just doesn't open. So
Yeah.
then you're fighting with it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then this one has that big old spring,
Yeah.
and that spring ain't gonna mess up. And if it does, the company will fix it.
yeah.
But yeah, these little cheapy things, I mean, they're easier on your hands.
Mhm. Mhm.
This, I mean, this versus this is kind of like, this will give you carpal tunnel.
I think they
Well, I
both
guess
could.
this too, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we
And
punched
then-
another hole. Do you have the other hole puncher?
No, it's somewhere
I
else.
thought in that box.
Oh,
Sorry, we're
yeah,
not
it is
very
in this
prepared.
box.
Oh no, that's okay.
Somewhat prepared.
Yeah, so then we have, it's like for beating.
Oh,
And so
When
it's a
you make
little
it
hole
at the-
punch.
the top.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that the nail goes through.
Mhm.
And then we like organize all the punches by color too,
Mhm.
because we make a lot of rainbows. So we have 6 jars and they all have their things.
Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple.
Yeah.
Roy G. Biv.
Awesome.
But yeah, and then
And then we hammer the nails. Well,
we hammer the
there's more to it. Of course, we have
There's a
to
lot more to it.
create the layout first. So sometimes we're just drawing a grid right on the board. Sometimes we're creating like a template that we can use to kind of transfer the design like these.
Yeah.
And just depending upon what it is and how large it is, it could be fast and it could take forever. I don't know. It seems like every step
Every step takes
forever.
Yeah. And there's 2 of
Yeah.
us making.
Yeah. We're very
Do
patient.
you, like, do you have different roles when you make art? or do you like each do everything?
Well, we are both
Well, you
capable
do,
of doing everything.
you do all the social media
Yeah,
and the website
the bookkeeping
stuff, the bookkeeping.
the kind of boring stuff.
Yeah.
But okay, I do
the
get,
the contracts
do
and
come
the
up with,
talking to the lawyers and
yes,
talking to the
I do
stuff
come
like
up with a
that.
lot of the designs. So that is that I do some of the, more of the fun part of creating art. I do come up with the designs. Nemo does a lot of the physical work. So he does a lot of the can
The can
cutting,
and
can
punching,
flattening, punching,
hammering.
hammering. But I will jump in and do that stuff too. It just depends on.
Well, like it's
our
like she'll do
schedule.
the small punch. Like
Mhm.
I leave a lot of little piles of punched
Yeah.
holes all over the place. So she'll go and she'll make the second hole.
Mm.
And then
But lately I do the framing.
yeah, well, we both do the framing.
I cut the
You
frames.
cut the frames and then when we're putting them together, we both kind, you need more hands than two hands to put a frame on. I guess that's it. And then we both box and ship.
Yeah.
So.
So we sort of have different roles, but then
Yeah.
we kind of have overlapping roles too.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what are the frames made out of?
It depends. Like we have
Wood.
some of our frames are made out of just this really inexpensive wood that we get from the hardware store. That this is great for our rectangular pieces. Like this frame is probably going to go on that one. And these require a little bit of woodworking skill. And then we have these are new. We're really excited about this because these are upcycled. These are the cast-offs from drum manufacturing.
Wow.
So I don't know if people even know what that is. We've never talked about it before because we haven't even unveiled these yet. We will probably be unveiling them this week. But we're making these round pieces, those included. All of these come from a company that makes custom drums, like for drummers, bass drums and snare drums and stuff like that. And they save all their scraps, and they have like these tubes of wood, I guess, and they can't do anything with them, but they have them. So we are getting them, and they're just cutting them into slices like this. So imagine this is part of, a drum basically.
Yeah.
And so these are made of maple, and they are like a plywood. So you can see that they're really kind of beautiful. And it's so perfect for us because of course we are upcyclers. And I always wanted to have some sort of frame that we could say is also upcycled. I wish everything could be upcycled, but that's just not the case. But now we can make that claim with these.
Yeah.
That's really cool and definitely a great fit for you.
Yeah.
So when you first started, like you talked a little bit about like first looking at cans as new material. I kind of started this newsletter with in hopes that people would start to look at materials in different ways. So can both of you talk a little bit about like your first, like when it clicked in your brain that cans could be art or repurposed into art, and like have you always looked at materials this way?
Yes, we have always looked at materials this way.
Yeah.
Before the cans.
I wanted to crochet plastic bags.
Yeah, we were crafty,
You were doing
Bottle
the lids,
caps.
bottle caps from the waters, the clear ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember you did that one piece where she would dip them in different color paints and still in a grid.
Yeah, so I would take the plastic bottle cap, dip it in like thick house paint.
Yeah.
And then stick it onto a canvas or a piece of wood.
Yeah, so they were kind of different.
And I
colors
created a
stuff.
grid. And then there was the X-Acto knives.
X-Actos.
Yeah, we actually started our careers in architecture, and we would make architectural models, and that required a lot of X-Actos.
Yeah.
because you always had to have a
And I
sharp
always
knife.
saved them up because I felt bad about throwing them in the trash because I didn't want anybody like to grab the trash wrong and cut themselves with
Yeah.
exactly. So I would just put them in jars and just,
Yeah.
have them in the jar lined up in the
We
thing.
still use X-Acto blades.
But
um,
we don't switch them out as
Yeah,
often.
it's really interesting. When we worked in architecture, we would go through hundreds of these because we had to have this really sharp blade,
Because
and
you got to make a presentation model.
yeah, the
like-
knife would become very dull very quickly.
Yeah. Especially if you're
But-
cutting like gypsum board and
With-
cardboard.
We would get the piece. This is one of the first pieces that I ever made that kind of triggered. It was the beginning of what we're doing
Mhm.
now. And these are
That's
not.
so cool. Wow.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to dangle these, but I didn't. I just I
because we
glued them.
couldn't get a nail not to go, because the nail had to be pretty fat for the head to
Yeah.
Oh, that's
not
right.
have.
It would just fall off.
But we did think about that
Yeah.
before we even thought about this stuff.
Yeah.
Too.
So this technically was the very beginning of this. And then the day that we were looking at the cans, it just so happened that they were Lone Star beer.
Yeah. Well, I think even before that, we used to, I guess when we were, when we were younger and stuff,
Mhm.
when we would have, we would save up the bottle caps
Mhm.
from different beers that, we'd be like, oh, haven't tried that beer. And we'd
Yeah.
buy that beer and we'd get the bottle cap and we'd put a magnet in the bottle cap and put it to our refrigerator. So we had this refrigerator that kind of
Full.
looked like our
Yeah.
art of bottle caps and stuff. And I think that we've always been like, if you get a box of cereal and you look at the little characters that they have or their fonts and bags of chips and just
Mhm.
like every graphic design on packaging
Yeah.
is
Like
amazing,
you look at a package.
or wine bottle labels.
Yes,
And
wine
we'd always
bottle
buy
labels, yes.
something according to the graphic.
And we'd look at it and we'd be like, oh, this is so cool, or this is so beautiful,
Yeah.
or unique. Too bad we just have to chunk it, like when it's
Yeah.
done.
So for anyone watching this who wants to repurpose material that they already have, how would you recommend that they get started?
I would, my feeling towards it is try to see what you can do with what you have without spending any extra money first.
Mm.
I think that's kind of important. I know a lot of people who want to become crafters or artists think I got to go buy
Yeah, or I got to take a class.
the perfect paintbrush and the perfect canvas, and I got to have the
You gotta
artist
have the perfect candle
easel,
on and the
yeah,
perfect
music. Yeah, I would
and
say like
jump in and do it.
imperfection is the way to go.
Try and error.
Let it be imperfect, because I think the imperfections will end up being
Yeah.
what makes it beautiful.